There's a possible interpretation of the mystery potion and subsequent gender change from a trans angle, both transmasc and transfemme, if I'm being honest. Please feel free to share your interpretations of it in the comments below. To be honest, I'd rather hear actual transmasc/transfemme people's views on this than try to bullshit one as a very gender ambivalent lesbian.
This is a clip from Nerdy Artie's amazing video essay, The Fruity Implication of Sunny's Headspace. In that video, she does a great job of walking through the nuances of interpreting Sunny through a bisexual lens. If you haven't seen that video, I highly suggest watching it, since her video is a sort of springboard for this one. While the video changed my perspective on some of the aspects of Sunny and the way his mind works, I walked away with two nagging ideas in the back of my head. 1. Along with his other friends, I think Sunny's got a bit of a crush on Kel too. I mean, Aubrey has a whole line about how she wants to go on an adventure alone with Omori, but it never happens. The person you go on a solo adventure with, which is mandatory, is Kel. Sunny or Omori route, in Headspace you are obligated to go with him. It really shows who Sunny wants to spend his time with more out of the two, at least to me. Omori also gets ecstatic when Kel does a normal follow-up attack with him on some of the higher tiers. I mean, hell, he even tones down how much Kel blushes in the flower crown photo for Headspace, which could show some signs of how he's repressing either how he feels or distorts how Kel feels. Also this. And 2. Sunny can most definitely be interpreted in a transgender way, and in fact, certain aspects of Sunny's mind make a bit more sense if you view him that way. The second point in particular kind of haunted me the more I thought about it. The Bye Sunny video was released almost a year ago, so I'll admit I'm a bit late to the party, but hey, better late than never. I know this could have just been condensed down into a comment on her video, but doing so doesn't allow me to reach the depths I think this concept deserves. Also, it probably wouldn't be able to give me much nuance. But, I mean, it's also Pride Month, and I want a good sort of return to YouTube video. Real quick before we jump into the actual video essay, there are a few things worth bringing up. First, in this video, I'm going to be viewing Sunny under a trans-masc lens. There's definitely evidence for both trans-masc and trans-femme readings of Sunny, like Nerdy Artie said, but the trans-masc one is particularly compelling to me since it aligns more with my own experience as someone who is trans-masc. Second, if you view Sunny as trans-feminine or cisgender, that is totally fine. I have nothing against those interpretations of him. Third, this video isn't trying to convince you that Sunny is 100% undisputably a trans man. It's just a fun exercise to view Sunny from a different point of view and for a chance to understand him better, since he is a very complex character, oozing with nuance. Cool? Cool. This is actually my first time talking about queer theories of video games outside of private Discord servers or DMs with my friends, so I gotta cover all my bases here, just in case. And of course, there will be spoilers for Omori. Now, let's re-examine Sunny's headspace, this time with a transmasculine lens. Alright, let's get the most obvious point of interest out of the way first, since I'm pretty sure I know why you're here. It's referenced in the Bye Sunny video and a bunch of other places when talking about queer Omori analysis, along with the idea of Sunny being any flavor of transgender, a mystery potion. When you drink the sucker underwater, or in weirdly specific black space locations, Omori has a couple more pixels added to his sprite, which are supposed to be pigtails. Besides this, the only real impact the potion has on the game is that Omori can go into the girl's bathroom in the last resort because he looks like a girl now. Hooray. It's easy to pass this off at first glance as Sunny's mind wanting to explore the idea of him being a girl, but the ability to do so is only after Sunny releases full control of his own mind. But he doesn't really want to be a girl, does he? Omori's portrait on the menu screen doesn't change after consuming this potion. None of his cosmetic changes do that. Just look at when he wears the Sproutwell mask, or he gets covered in flour in Brevin, or any of the other times his sprite changes. His portrait remains the same. I think this is because the menu art shows his true self to an extent. His cosmetics aren't a part of him, it's purely for show. The potion also wears off whenever you're not in water, get into a fight, or most notably, you look into a mirror. Mirrors in Omori show truth, with some of them revealing more the closer he gets to the truth, if that makes sense. He feels safe at Hiro and Kel's house in the real world, so the mirror there doesn't show him anything creepy or weird, along with the mirrors in Headspace before defeating Humphrey. But after you defeat him, the mirrors have a chance to show how fake and disturbing this world really is. In the deeper parts of Sunny's mind, he can view himself as broken, or straight up monstrous. In the real world, he sees himself in Basil's and his own mirror as a boy haunted by the actions of one terrible day. All these mirrors have something in common, though. When Sunny looks into a mirror, he sees his own view of himself. Whether monstrous, broken, or haunted, he still sees himself as a man. He doesn't consider the more feminine characteristics to be a part of him, so they just vanish. But when I put it that way, it's not very trans, is it? From what I've heard from most cisgender people in my life, most of them don't think about what they'd look like as a different sex or gender presentation. Why does the mystery potion exist at all? Why does Sunny even have a way to make himself look like a girl at all? I mean, the potion straight up doesn't work on Sunny's other friends in Headspace. Headspace is incredible, and his imagination is nothing short of powerful. But everything has something it's based off of. Books, people, places, and more are all incorporated into Headspace. I don't think he has a reference for what his friends would look like with different gender expressions, because they never chose to explore it. Though Sunny might have, which is why we have that sprite of Omori with pigtails. And I know there's a point to be made here about how in a meta way, we have the sprite in-game because it's a nod to how there might have been plans for the player to choose Sunny's gender near the beginning of Omori's development. Hell, there's a good amount of art from Omocat for quote-unquote girl Sunny. However, that's as much as I'm going to acknowledge this because I think it's more interesting to view why the sprite exists from a narrative angle than a meta one. But to get the full picture of Sunny, possibly pre-transition, and his feeling about it, we need to address another thing. I'm not the only one who thinks Sunny's mind treats important women characters kind of weird, right? There are 9 female humanoid boss characters in Headspace, not including the console-exclusive fights against Aubrey or Mari. Sweetheart, her clones, the Slime Girls, Doey, and Abby. They're generally not treated the best either. If you're on the true route and manage to find as many of these bosses as you can, you'll know that Doey, after being freed from Brevin, loses all her clams from gambling at the last resort. Sweetheart, her clones, and the Slime Girls are all consumed by Humphrey after defeating him, and they're assumed to be dead. You don't even get to see Abby on this route. On the Hikikomori route, they're treated a bit better. Everyone is alive post-reset and now lives in Humphrey, minus Abby and Doey, though the Slime Girls are left as severed heads unless you choose to help them rebuild their bodies. Abby, however, even if you defeat and choose to spare her, will remain locked away in a prison below Headspace. If you go to the far corner of the area she's in, you'll even enter an area in Black Space. That's how far down she is. While she thanks you for sparing her and gives you incredibly powerful charms and weapons, she is just a shell of herself. She sits next to Black Space, only available after completing the Hangman Keys puzzle. She doesn't even know about the truth anymore, but she's still punished for it. It's hard to really call that living. Sweetheart and the Slime Girls are all relentlessly cruel to Omori and his friends, while the other women bosses just look down on you or are misunderstood. It makes sense if the punishment fit the crime. The Slime Girls, especially Molly and Marina, want to do a number of unspeakable things to 4 children, so it makes sense that their sort of punishment would be getting consumed. But characters like Robo-Heart and Mutant Heart pay for the crime of merely existing. If you look at the male bosses, however, you don't exactly see the same punishments being given out. Let's get this out of the way really quick. Yes, most of the male bosses do die when you defeat them, but the important ones mostly don't. On the Hikikomori route, you can fight Pluto a total of 3 times, 2 of which you have a complete choice in. But nearly every step of the way, he's framed as sympathetic, and even a mentor-like figure for Kel. He teaches him how to perform a new skill and increase his stats. He even remarks on how strong Kel has gotten when you use the flex skill during the fight against him at the last resort. Even if you fight Pluto at every given chance, he will be nothing but on your side and supportive. He even gets to pursue his dreams because of Omori and his friends. Mr. Jossum, on the other hand, is not a great guy. He takes advantage of the children in Headspace's trusting nature to get them to work for him for free. He sends his henchmen after you on multiple occasions, and he works his employees nearly to the bone. He's greedy, he's predatory, and he's also on your side after you finish fighting him. Sure, he's a little bitter at first, but he quickly encourages Omori and his friends on their goal towards finding Basil. He allows the group access into secret clubs that help boost their stats. His henchmen now help them out, and you get other fun perks from that. On the Hikikomori route, he even happily hands over the last resort to Hiro in order to go on vacation. And one of his gator guys teaches Hiro a pretty powerful new skill. Mr. Jossum gets to go wherever he pleases, and his employees even start to do better after Hiro takes over the last resort. Another guy worth mentioning is Captain Spaceboy, who goes through so many ups and downs with Sweetheart, but she's even implied to be his abuser of sorts. With the help of Omori and his friends, Captain Spaceboy is able to pick himself back up and find happiness without Sweetheart. He's surrounded by people who care about him, genuinely, not just out of fear or blind devotion. When choosing to help him on either route, he unlocks new areas for the group to explore, the Orange Oasis and Snow Globe Mountain. The difference between the bosses who are women or men is night and day. Even Humphrey, who's just a menace, is able to go on and live a happy life in Headspace, regardless of what route you're on. The important men in Headspace are mentors, allies, or friends to the group after defeat, but the important women are more often than not obstacles that need to be overcome, rather than people worth forming bonds with. It's in this strange dichotomy that we start to see how Sunny views femininity and masculinity. To him, femininity is generally associated with being negative. In Sunny's mind, being a girl brings cruelty, not any sort of comfort. But on the other hand, being a boy is something worth being. Being a boy means, at least to him, despite not always picking the right choices in life, there's still this chance to be better and help others. After all, that's what all the male figures around him seem to teach him in Headspace. And to Sunny, that's very valuable. Obviously, there's nothing inherently good or evil about being masculine or feminine. I think there's value and meaning in both, of course. Sunny demonizing important female characters, with almost all of them being extremely, well, feminine, could mean a couple different things. The first is that there's some sort of, how do I put this, misogyny going on. The second is that Sunny might project some of his own hatred towards his feminine aspects from the past onto the characters in Headspace, especially the bosses. The tone of this section got pretty heavy pretty fast, so how about something on a lighter note? Let's switch tracks to Captain Spaceboy, who deserves a bit more attention in this section since he shares so many strong parallels with Sunny. The most obvious visual similarity is the eye patch over the right eye. When on the Sunny route, Sunny will need to wear one after his fight with Basil. Captain Spaceboy wearing one, and Omori receiving one as a charm after defeating him for the first time, serves as a nice bit of foreshadowing. There aren't many other visual similarities, but the two share some of the same personality traits, such as isolating themselves when in pain, despite being surrounded by people who care about them. Hell, they both only have one parent in the picture, which is definitely an interesting coincidence, if not Sunny just projecting his own problems onto a character he really enjoys. Actually, Captain Spaceboy's creator, Jamie Lynn, or Clover in Sea Life, has stated before that he is a trans guy. She's even drawn him with top surgery scars, and for the Omori release countdown, when she drew him, he was depicted pretty femininely. Though nowhere in the game draws attention to Captain Spaceboy being transgender in any capacity, it's fun to think that the character that Sunny admires so much could be trans, just like him. After all, Nerdy Artie said it herself.
Obviously, Sunny prefers Spaceboy to Sweetheart. Obviously, Sunny prefers Spaceboy to Sweetheart.
Yeah, we need to talk about this picture. In her video, the phrase, Sunny prefers Spaceboy to Sweetheart, is paired with this image from the photo album. I think that she's kind of implying here that Sunny is in this photo. And if you really study the photo, you'll notice that this person on the right beside Aubrey has really long hair. Under the Omori wiki, both of them, really, this photo is put under the collection of photos with Mari in them. And I think it makes sense why the mods of those sites would do that. This person has a cute colored shirt and, well, long hair. Those are traits that are very much aligned with how Mari presents herself. And even so, I have met a good handful of people who saw this picture and thought it was Sunny. The person doesn't appear to be leaning over too much, which Mari would need to do since she towers over all of the younger kids. This person also seems to have Sunny's more younger-looking face than Mari's more mature one. I struggle to say that with confidence that Sunny is in this photo, because only 2 days before the picture was taken, Sunny is shown with short hair. It's just not possible for him to grow that much hair in an incredibly short amount of time, unless, of course, he was wearing a wig. But yet, it doesn't feel right for me to rule it out completely as Sunny, since the resemblance to him is striking. So striking that I think that Sunny's headspace knows this too. The Pink Beach, beach room, or whatever else you want to call it, is likely my favorite area in all of Black Space. It's the last mandatory area of what I like to call Black Space 1. This place houses an NPC called Blue Girl if your WTF value is 6 or higher. She also borrows design elements from various characters like Aubrey's teal dress, most everything about Mari minus the inherent creepiness, and the general appearance of the photo person. At first, I thought this girl was a non-threatening version of Helmari, until I interacted with her. She only has one line, which is, "Don't talk to me." Only spoken after you ignore her attempts to get away from you. This line doesn't seem on par with the characterization from Aubrey or Helmari up until this point. Blue Girl appears whether you've seen Aubrey in the real world or not, so it's not as though her real-life counterpart influenced anything. Even in Black Space, Aubrey is generally pretty friendly towards Omori, with the exception of the reef area where she's unconscious or just swimming around, the faceless area where no one talks to you, and the room with all your friends running backwards in Black Space 2. But even then, you can't see Black Space 2 until after you've gone through Black Space 1. Helmari isn't one to push you away either. Quite the opposite, in fact. She chases Omori down whenever she sees him, but never hurts him. Physically, anyway. It wouldn't make sense for either of them to be avoiding Omori and telling him to leave them alone, especially when most art of them in Black Space is pretty consistent across the board. You know who would seem pretty in character by saying this, though? A certain person who has faced immense suffering through their life to the point of extreme social isolation. A person who might have had to deal with the very real pain of growing up as a girl, but realized they just weren't. Blue Girl reads to me as Sunny's pre-transition self, rather than Helmari or Aubrey. I mean, we even have a pretty decent reference as to what Sunny might have looked like as a more feminine version of himself. It's not one for one, but there's a good handful of similarities between this person in the photo and Blue Girl. We've seen how snarky Omori can be, who's just a part of Sunny to some extent, and that matches up with Blue Girl's dialogue and behavior. Apart from Blue Girl, there is one more thing we can check out here when examining Headspace with a transgender lens. Well, two, I guess. One, if you zoom out on the whole beach area and slap a white line through the center of it, then you just have the trans flag. You can also zoom in on this spot of the area and flip it upside down and get the bisexual flag. Probably unintentional on the developer's part, but I figured it was worth pointing out for fun. The other thing is that the pink beach is one of the handful of places in Sunny's mind where you can use the mystery potion. Yep, we're talking about this again. Each place you can use the mystery potion seemingly has a reason for why you're able to do so if you look closely. So let's do it. The description from this item says it can only be used underwater, but it doesn't always feel like following that rule. The only time it really seems to do so is in regular headspace. Everywhere in deep and deeper well, you're free to use it, but outside of there, the potion can only be used in specific black space type areas. I think the reason you can use it in the underwater headspace areas is because these areas represent Sunny's warped idea of what growing up is. You work where your boss doesn't treat you well. You can gamble, you can drink fruit juice, you have to pay your tolls, you can go into clubs, you have to grow up without your older sibling that you killed, you start to discover your sexuality, and you have to go through puberty. Well, in an ideal world, Sunny would be able to grow up into a big, strong man, like the cutout he steps into at the last resort. Sunny might have to live with the unfortunate reality that his body is forcing him to go through the wrong type of change. But despite it all, Sunny doesn't let his own body distract him from who he really is on the inside. Though, if growing up was such a fun idea to Sunny, I doubt he would have made it one of the deepest points of normal headspace. From here on, the mystery potion can only be used in various different black space or black space adjacent areas. The earliest of these you can reach is the Faces of Omori. Unfortunately, this is the hardest of the black space areas for me to give a straightforward or satisfying answer to. Omori isn't really a person. He's a collection of code and sprites puppeteered by what Sunny's mind wants him to do. When you're able to use the mystery potion, Sunny isn't truly there anymore, is he? Omori can do whatever he wants now that Sunny isn't directly controlling him any longer. Omori is free to live out all aspects of Sunny's childhood, even the ones that Sunny would rather keep hidden away. Once again, I don't fully understand this area, so take it with a grain of salt. The next area is a lot easier to understand why the potion can be used here. This is just a weird version of Sunny's neighborhood. It's probably his view of it after Mari died. It's colorless and morbid, but ultimately non-threatening. Reminders of Mari's death are littered everywhere, though. Regardless, it's still the town he grew up in. Most of Sunny's life was spent on these streets. Walking up and down them while looking like a girl is something that Sunny might have just experienced. But it's not something that he wants to relive. That's why it's in black space after all. But Omori likes reliving most things from Sunny's childhood experiences, and Sunny's not here to stop him from doing that. Weird hobby, but it's better than wandering around the red maze, I suppose. This is another tough one to fully understand. The entire place stands above a body of water, so points to it for almost following the rules of the potion. There's a good handful of places where Omori is alone with Basil, so I'm not sure why this one in particular is cause for use of the potion. Since I have to guess, Basil is gone by the time you can use the mystery potion here. His friends are nowhere to be seen, and he's left alone with the moon and the treehouse. If the treehouse he built with his friends is supposed to be somewhere fun and inviting, then showing a corrupted version of that could mean that he felt scared with his other friends knowing his true self. Basil might have seen Sunny the way he wanted to be seen, which is why he's okay being alone with him, but when he's alone, he feels scared to show his true self to his other friends, at least earlier on. Weathervane Island is our second to last area. If we're going off of Sleepy Crest's theory from their absolutely banger Black Space 2 video, that this area represents disassociation, it could show Sunny's very passive nature in regards to expressing how he feels, or what he wants, to other people. In Headspace, he runs the show, but in the real world, he goes with what people tell him to do. Sure, he speaks up about what he wants sometimes, but if he can't tell his friends or family that he hasn't wanted to play the violin for a long time, how would he even be able to tell them that he isn't a girl? The last area I want to talk about in this section is the Abyss. It's kind of black space, kind of not. We've already established earlier that Sunny views being female in a negative light. I think the reason why the mystery potion can be used in the Abyss is similar to why it can be used in the Pink Beach. It just serves as a comparison between Omori and the main girl in the room. Whether it's comparing different versions of himself or how he views femininity is really up for you to decide. Beyond where the mystery potion can be used, there's two other black space rooms that I find to be valuable when talking about transgender Sunny analysis. The first one, of course, being... This might be a controversial opinion, not as controversial as interpreting Sunny as trans, but I don't think it makes sense for Sunny and Mari's father to disown Sunny after Mari's death because he believes that Sunny was involved with it. their father didn't really know her well enough to know that she was hiding presumably a whole relationship from him. So how would he know her well enough to know that she wouldn't end her own life? Even the people who knew Mari best fully believed that she did take her own life. Why would her father, of all people, be skeptical? It makes more sense for the topic of Sunny being a guy to be brought up, and his father disowned him for that. It is a small, judgmental town, after all. I mean, just look at how the people at church talk awfully about Aubrey during the boss fight with her in Faraway Town. So, I think the line reads less as, "You are not my son, you're a murderer," and more of, "You are not my son, you are my daughter." In his eyes, he lost both of his daughters in an incredibly short amount of time. So, he left. Unfortunately, this is a reality that many trans people have to face. Not everyone will accept you. It's a fear that Sunny is certainly well aware of. I think the Herosaurus room represents Sunny's own fear of being accepted by the people he loves. Sunny's mind might have created this strange version of Hero, asking if he can still be accepted because Sunny views him as someone who is loved by everyone. If Hero has to ask this question and risk rejection despite being a universally loved person, then Sunny might feel that he doesn't have a chance to be accepted as who he really is. He's done horrible things, and his own father might have disowned him for being trans. But he wants to be accepted by the ones he loves. That's why Headspace was created in the first place, wasn't it? To live out his wildest fantasies of being happy and accepted by those around him. And if that means he has to stop the world and go back in time a little bit to do that, then so be it. In the true route, there is a chance for acceptance by his friends. That's why we don't see a Herosaurus on that route. The fear of being accepted is certainly still there, but he has the ability to reconcile with his friends. He's vulnerable about the truth to them, on the off chance that he will be forgiven and accepted once again. On the Hikikomori route, he denies himself any chance to be happy, loved, forgiven, or accepted because he feels he doesn't deserve it. But he does, and he always has. This video was made first and foremost as a response to Nerdy Arty. I wanted to see how much I could get out of the concept of Sunny being transmasculine, but more importantly, I want to find the meaning in the strange parts of Sunny's mind that feel hard to explain. Things like Herosaurus, the mystery potion, or Blue Girl feel nonsensical on their own, but by interpreting them through a different lens, they hold much more meaning. Plus, I think it makes more sense for these things in Sunny's mind to have a purpose than not. As always, my main goal is to understand whatever topic I'm discussing better. And I feel satisfied that I understand Sunny and his mind more by doing so. And maybe myself a little bit better too. Seeing Sunny as a person who wants to be accepted and loved by those around him, and pursuing that, despite being scared to, is something that undeniably hits close to home for me. It makes me feel hopeful, too. Choosing to be the most true version of myself with others is an incredibly scary thing to do. It's always something worth pursuing. Not every person will understand or accept me, but those who try to are part of what makes life living. And you, the person watching this video, please know that there will always be people out there who love and accept you, and those people are always worth finding. Thanks to Nerdy Artie for making the By Sunny video. Because of that video, I had the courage to make my own queer Omori analysis video and be more open with how I feel. Happy Pride Month. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry about the noticeable lack of videos between this one and the last video I posted. A couple tornadoes touched down at the end of April, not too far away from where I live. It almost completely flattened the neighborhood I grew up in, and one of my family members lost her house. That's been more of a priority to me than making video essays. Thankfully, the community has been starting to rebuild, and my family member is okay. But towards the state border, some people actually died because of the tornadoes that touched down. Me and my family are okay, but it was absolutely terrifying to go through. May was a tough month, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with this channel. YouTube hasn't exactly had the best track record with how they treat creators, especially smaller ones. I got kind of scared when thinking about how I could get screwed over in various ways. And then the fear kind of got to me. But the longer I went without making video essays, the worse I felt. And I just sort of realized that, shit, I can't imagine doing much of anything else besides making video essays. It's been my dream since I was 12 to be a YouTuber after all. And I truly love what I do. So, no more long gaps between videos if I can help it. I said in my last video that I wanted this to be my job someday, and that I wasn't going anywhere, and I can say with confidence that I really do mean it. Thank you once again to everyone sticking around for the ride. Speaking of which, I have over 300 subscribers now, and I really appreciate all of you so much. You're really making my dreams come true, even if you don't realize it. I've been thinking about making some sort of special video if I reach 1,000 subscribers, so if that sounds interesting to you and you'd like to see other video essays from me, then please consider subscribing. I'm on the road to sweet, sweet YouTube monetization, and subscribing goes a long way towards helping me and my channel. Plus, it's free to do. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it. Also, please tell me your thoughts, theories, video suggestions, or anything else in the comments below. I love hearing what everyone has to say, especially since this video is different from most of the other ones I've made. Alrighty, I'll see you sometime in the future. Bye!